There is no red, white, or blue in this country. The only color that matters is green because we live in the United Corporations of America. Greetings, salutations. It is Jordan Chariton live in the United Corporations of America, Status Coup. As the free fall has begun, it is, what's today? Wednesday, April the 3rd, 2025. And, Steve of Real Progressives, make sure you subscribe to Real Progressives. Joining us second day in a row, we get an extra dose of Mr. Grumbine. I was doing a little spring cleaning in my home. I hope people don't think this is too arrogant of me, but I do want to show this because a viewer made this for me years ago. I didn't ask for it, so this was not like me being cocky, but I think we all need a little bit of that. Huh?
Jordan Hussein Obama. Look at you, brother.
I think we all need a little hope in these trying times. I wish the person wouldn't have cut off my forehead, but beggars can't be choosers. To be clear, I didn't ask for it. I don't hang it up over my bed and stare at it, but we all need a little hope, huh? I digress. Obviously, the big story right now is the tariffs chaos. We try not to do knee-jerk reactions here, but sadly, I don't think this is knee-jerk what's going on, and I think it might get worse from here. As we covered yesterday, Trump instituted across-the-board tariffs on a lot of countries and all the goods that come from those countries. His speech was rambling. As many are noting today, his math seems to be kind of made up in terms of what he is claiming other countries are charging us in tariffs. We're going to get into the tariffs. Then a little bit later, Ashley Bishop, who I introduced you to yesterday, our brand new Status Coup reporter, she'll be joining us to give a report. Interestingly enough, MAGA has been circulating around the internet today. General Motors is increasing production in America. See, the tariffs work. They're trying to claim a victory that Trump's tariffs immediately led to GM increasing jobs. She's going to tell you about that. There's a little fine print in what kind of jobs those are going to be. So I'll have her on a little bit later to get into that. But Steve, I mean, let's start with Granny doesn't mind delayed Social Security check. Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary, he went on a little TV news tour, as well as the Secretary of Treasury, to try and calm the markets, calm the fat cats on Wall Street. Didn't do such a good job. Let's see what Howard Lutnick had to say about these tariffs.
You're right in the long term, but in the long term, we're all dead. So how long are we going to have to wait for the benefits to come pouring in?
Well, you started hearing it recently when Donald Trump yesterday said we have about $5 trillion of committed investment to America. $5 trillion. That means people are going to start building factories right now. And that means all that construction work begins now. That starts to employ Americans today. You're going to see plants being built, factories rebuilding. All shifts are going to be running hot across America now. You're going to see employment leaping starting today.
Starting today. Okay. Colin, if you can, Stellantis, of the big three. It used to be, what did Stellantis used to be? I forget. It's General Motors, Stellantis, and GM. Stellantis has announced they're pausing production at their Canada plant and laying off 900 workers in Michigan. How's that for building plants? I'm not condoning it because Stellantis is a rich, fucking greedy company. Their CEO, infamously during the UAW strike, was sending in his negotiation demands from his mansion in Mexico. But Stellantis already laying off 900 workers in the Midwest as a result of the tariffs. Then you have Whirlpool to eliminate 651 manufacturing jobs in Iowa. So Whirlpool, hot tubs, other types of pools. They're laying folks off. Then you have the iPhone price, because everybody needs an iPhone in America, which is scrambling our brains, could surge 43% under Trump's China tariffs, pushing a $799 phone, which is already insane, to $1,100. And by the way, it's $1,100, but then you got to get the, Apple Care and all the add-ons. So it ain't $1,100. It's going to be even more than that. And then you have Canada says it agreed to strengthen the diverse trade relationships it has with Germany in response to Trump's tariffs. Mexico says it will sign and maintain trade agreement with the European Union in response to tariffs. And Canada announced today that it's going to respond reciprocally to our tariffs against it. So that will also affect the auto industry. Then you have China, which Steve and I extensively talked about. They are urging the U.S. to immediately lift the tariffs, and they vow retaliation. We're up to 54% against China. So I would guess China is going to go tit for tat, because a lot of this, Steve, is egos. Trump, the Chinese president, they don't want to look like they're the first one to blink. They want to argue. They want to be looked at. I have a bigger stick, so to speak. So I think you could see significant tariffs from China, which obviously affects electronics, among other things. And let me show this. Jeff Stein's tweet, Colin. This is from the Washington Post. The White House internal talking points tell surrogates that Trump's new global tariff regime should not be characterized as a starting point of negotiations. Trump also telling advisors they're not about setting up talks, because that's what a lot of, Wall Streeters and CNBCers are saying. This has to be a negotiation ploy because it's too crazy if it's not. Well, Trump's trying to put out there it's not a negotiation ploy. All right, we have more updates, but let's first start with your reaction. Not surprising, we're already seeing, and I probably missed, by the way, a few of the layoffs. There's probably more than I just told you. But what do you think of that top line?
Well, just on the basic, that's not huge layoffs, but it's enough to show you it's starting, right? It's not gaining, it's starting. And I'm sure your new hire, your new reporter is going to talk more about this, but I am positive that instead of filling it with good full-time work, it's going to be a bunch of shit time work, a bunch of precarity baked into the mix for people, desperate for work. And then on top of that, you see what's happening with the federal government laying off huge amounts of people at DHS and elsewhere. So it's just a nonstop shit show.
Absolutely. And, I also think at the end of the day, and I don't put a lot of stock into anything Donald Trump says. If he really cared about the working class, I don't think he'd be giving massive tax cuts to people like Howard Lutnick and himself. If he really cared about the working class, I don't think he'd be making his ties and all his other shit in China. Donald Trump doesn't care about the working class. He's notoriously stiffed his own contractors in his real estate empire, dodged taxes, embarked in money laundering with Russia. That was the real Russian collusion. He was money laundering through Russia when he was doing real estate full-time, particularly in the 90s. Putting that aside, I'm sympathetic to the stated goal, because his stated goal and the talking points coming from his administration are we need to totally change the global economic order, right? We need to stop relying on other countries for our goods and bring manufacturing home here. I'm all about that. I think so are you. And I'm not one of these people who say it could never happen. But the truth is, the genie's kind of out of the bottle. There's very few things, whether it's auto, electronics, where all of it is made in one country. That's what globalization did. There's very few things that are only made in America. Just cars. The parts go back and forth between Canada, America, Mexico. There's very few things that are truly fully made only in America. You saw during the COVID the worst of COVID. I mean, we couldn't even get masks here. We didn't have ventilators here. We didn't have the capacity for that. We had to rely on China. So I agree with bringing back jobs. The problem is this isn't the way you do it. The way you really, in my view, I don't know if it will ever be what it was during the industrial boom in America, but the way you would totally increase manufacturing capacity in America, good paying jobs in America, strengthen unions, is massive government investment, is massive government jobs program. Tariffs, if they were targeted, yes, this is not targeted. And even if it's fully targeted, I mean, you're not going to force the auto companies to fully close in Mexico and Canada. They're just not going to do that. They're going to wait it out. They're going to do end arounds, which we saw in Trump's first term, where companies he put tariffs on, they just kind of went around those tariffs and shipped through other countries. So to me, the answer is massive government investment, which they don't want to do because they say that creates inflation. Am I missing something?
No, you're not, because think about this. Our infrastructure in this country is so fucking dilapidated. It's unbelievable. Bridges are rated D+. I mean, you're taking your life in your own hands when you drive on a lot of our roadways at this point. There is tons and tons and tons of work to be done, not just regular work to build new things, but to maintain the things we already have. Okay. If you just invested in the things that we have and built them up, and I consider this whole shift to bring back 1950s work, I consider that whole mindset to be a failure of imagination and a failure to seize the moment for looking forward. You know, this whole concept of bringing back these kind of shit jobs is kind of, in my opinion, what happened to robotics, right? Remember all the robotics that going to replace the industrial workers to begin with, and all the manufacturing jobs? Elon Musk is constantly showing you the robotic dog and the robotic person and all the different robotics in the world. Why in the world would you want to bring back work like that? Why would you not I can understand why they might want to, because they could do it without the people. They can literally mass produce this stuff with computers and robotics. But when they talk about bringing it back to people celebrating this stuff, what a short-term fix, if at all, because it's going to take 3 to 5 years to build out the plants. Okay, so you got some quick manufacturing jobs in the private sector. Fucking build up our energy grid, build up our roadways, build up our the infrastructure that makes up this country right now. You got thousands, if not millions, of jobs waiting to happen right there. And there's no reason to make us public enemy number one around the world, because a lot of the stuff that these other countries are manufacturing right now that we're buying from them, we could bring them back. That CHIPS Act, as much as I can't stand Joe Biden, that CHIPS Act was a hat tip to saying we cannot allow strategic electronic devices that we rely on for the operation of nuclear plants and computers and everything else. We can't allow that to be held up by an international bottleneck in the supply chain. Fix the supply chains in the U.S. And by supply chains, I'm talking about not just your highways, but I'm talking about railways. I'm talking about all the infrastructure, the electrical grid, alternative energy, you name it. All that 100% could be done. Instead, that is completely not on the table. Makes no sense to me at all.
And how about we give some, hey, you bring jobs back here, we'll give you a big corporate tax cut. How about you bring jobs back here and you shrink the gap between corporate CEO pay and worker pay? We'll give you more incentives. You know, we see in these gentrified areas, like, you know, Pete Buttigieg, to bring companies to South Bend, he just gave, hey, you don't have to pay taxes for 3 years. And as a result, those local cities rot because they don't have enough investment coming in. Right. Yep. So they sell the farm in these local cities, Democratic mayors, Republican mayors, tax abatements. They're throwing money your way to come, and the cities rot because that's revenue that goes to roads and garbage. Federal government can give as much money as it wants. Modern monetary theory. I know I'm really scratching your itch there. It's not the same thing. So that's how you actually, I would give corporate welfare if they are caring about the welfare of American workers.
Do me this favor. Just play this game with me for a minute. The federal government decides we want X. Well, I don't know. What is this something that they're talking about we need in this country right now? The federal government says, hey, we're looking for contractors for companies that will provide this thing. However, you must agree to hire American workers, U.S. citizens, whatever it is that they're.
Let me stop you right there.
Let
me stop you right there. You must agree to hire American workers full-time with health benefits, worker compensation, not this bullshit that we're going to
whatever.
Yeah, not this bullshit that we're going to have Ashley on. There's no temporary workers here, no gig jobs. Continue.
But that can all be written into legislation if they're serious. See, and this is why I don't take any of this seriously. This is why I don't take anybody that takes this shit seriously. Because if you understand how easy, I mean, this is not even hard. This is like you could be blindfolded and crawling on the floor in a dark room and find the wet spot, right? This is how easy this is, okay? But they won't do it. Why? Because people out there really genuinely believe that the only one that can create U.S. dollars, the U.S. government, is somehow or another incapable of doing that. So we need to somehow or another get our own U.S. dollars from the fucking tariffs, which is just the most asinine. I mean, it's beyond asinine. It's so stupid that when I see people take it seriously, I literally just lose all faith in humanity. It's the dumbest fucking thing I've ever seen.
I want to play a couple videos. Just gives me a tickle. CNBC's Jim Cramer having a meltdown. For once, I hate to say this, I don't completely disagree with him. Colin, let's play that first video with Jim Cramer.
Break out the cardigan sweater. I know it's a brutal comparison. You think I did it idly? I cannot think of another president in my lifetime who knocked down the stock market simply by opening his mouth than Jimmy Carter. Eureka! I have found him. So let's look at it this way. Everything about this economy is good. Everything, except one thing. We have a president who's very angry at everyone except Vladimir Putin. Oh, no, maybe even Vladimir Putin. And his wrath has made investors so downcast and so negative that people have just given up. They want nothing to do with stocks, nothing to do with this world, because they're sure the White House will keep laying on the tariffs that seem to be wiping out your wealth and my wealth. In this environment, it's a wonder anyone's buying anything, unless they think that the one person who's standing in the way of a great economy, one that could have incredible growth with lowered inflation, lower oil prices, less regulation, more confidence, will finally change the stripes. If Trump can lose the anger, drop the scowl, stop diminishing our friends and rivals while making common cause with our enemies, and generally start acting like he did in his first term, well, that would be huge for the stock market. As far as the stock market is concerned, though, we need less Jimmy Carter, more Ronald Reagan. Bottom line, maybe Wednesday is a deliberation day. It's just the day when American investors may be finally liberated from the president's not-so-pro-business attitude once he gets the tariffs out of the
Well, first of all, I don't think we need Jimmy Carter. We definitely don't need more Ronald Reagan. And when he's saying wiping out your wealth and my wealth, he's talking to wealthy fucks that watch CNBC, not the average Joe and Jane six-pack, okay? So he's concerned about, the C-suite people, the big executives, this and that, Wall Street, etc. However, this is also going to affect Main Street, your 401ks. This is the layoffs of working class people. So this is the one thing that kind of, I don't want to say equal pain, but the wealthy are going to be able to absorb it. It'll be a temporary hit. The working class, it could be a fatal blow.
Well, the difference is the wealthy, when the stock prices go down, they just buy more. They know to play, buy low, sell high. When it's regular Main Street is desperate. They don't have the kind of resources to do such a thing. So they are literally living paycheck to paycheck. And for those people that do have 401ks, sure, you can take a loan out from your 401k. But chances are, once you've taken one loan in this shitty economy, what ends up happening? You end up not being able to take another loan. So now your money is stuck there. You're paying an old loan back and watching your fucking bottom line shrink for your next, I don't know, they think people that are 70 years old should keep working, I guess. I don't know. It's fucking stupid.
I mean, people are already racking up credit card debt. That's going to go up. You also have the high interest rates that are still pretty high. This is not good. Not good.
Not at all. Not at all.
Colin, I don't know if it's in this order, but the last clip I sent you was the Treasury Secretary there, Scott Bessent. He was on Fox News. If you could play, I think it was 2 clips.
We're setting the stage for long-term economic growth, that we were on our way to a financial crisis. I used to teach a history of financial crises, and with that gigantic government spending, it was unsustainable. You look back in 1998, you look back in 2007, right before it looked great, everything collapsed. So, I mean, it looked great right before everything collapsed. So we have taken us off that trajectory, and we are putting ourselves back onto a sound trajectory.
Oh my God. Let me really rack this one in the balls, man. This one is bad juju.
1 second. 1 second. Damn it, we got 700 people watching. Only 290 likes. Smash that like button. That is your patriotic duty as a viewer, as a citizen, even if you're not a citizen. Go on.
So back when Bubba, at the turn of the century, had his surplus, his balanced budget, the surplus.
Bill Clinton, for those that don't know the term. Go.
Yes. Bill Clinton, brother Bill. Okay, build a bridge, do a new tomorrow. Right, Bill Clinton. He was celebrated, and still shitlibs are celebrating him for his surplus. What he did, and you'll never find me defend George W. Bush for any reason under the sun at all. He was a terrible president. But
although you did like him at the time.
Oh, brother, I campaigned for the son of a bitch. I campaigned for Ron Paul. So if you want all the truth out there, man, I was a right winger, man. I was all the way right. So take what I'm saying. I would have out-MAGA'd MAGA back then, all right? Here's the deal, though. At this point in time, when you look back at 2000 and you look back at the brother Bill Goldilocks economy, they called it, his surplus is actually removing money from the economy. So you got to see a real, honest to God, truly phenomenal technology in the internet that kind of hid some of the bullshit with Clinton. But what happened was right after the turn of the century, right after Y2K and all that stuff, we had a major recession that George W. Bush inherited from brother Bill because of this fucking stupidity of reducing the deficit. There has been so many times in the history where some idiot woke up one day and said, hey, let's get rid of the debt. And they go ahead and get rid of the debt. And what happens? You have a massive, not a recession, a massive depression. Okay. Because what is the debt? The debt is nothing more than the sum total of all the money that is in the economy that has not yet been paid back in taxes. That is what the national debt is. And guess where that money comes from? That money comes from law. It comes from the U.S. government. And all the private bank credit out there, that's not it. That's your and my debt because they didn't spend enough. So the more the government cuts, the more it puts an onus on little guys like you and I, to actually take out a credit card and literally go deeply in debt to keep the economy alive. And when we stop having room, when we stop having available credit, all of a sudden you start watching the spiral. And guess what happens? Instead of hiring a bunch of people, they start laying off more people. And you get the real hardcore gut punch of watching 100,000 people lose their job every fucking month, like happened when Obama got the old, the housing crisis bomb. Every one of these things comes as a result of a reduction in spending, not spending enough to meet the demand, not spending to get to full employment. And that is what is going to happen right now. You're going to watch horrible things happen. I hope you guys have a great job. I really do. I hope you get to stay in your great job forever. But I'm telling you right now, that's probably not going to be the way it goes. And I've been through a few of these things. And let me tell you, it sucks to have degrees and student loans and house payments and cars and stuff. And all of a sudden someone says, gosh, things are tight right now. We just don't need you anymore. And all of a sudden you're looking at your wife and your kids or your husband and your kids, and you're saying, I don't know what the fuck we're going to do. I don't know what we're going to do. Well, guess what? You just ushered that shit right in. That's what's happening right now, Donald Trump.
Absolutely. I want to show you UAW President Shawn Fain, who, for the most part, I'm a fan of. Don't agree with everything, but I thought he did a hell of a job during the 2023 strike. We covered it for 3 weeks on the ground, thanks to you, Status Coup members. Hint, hint, sign up, Status Coup. You could become a member for as low as $5 a month, and we're going to have Ashley going on the road soon. And this Saturday, it was already, Steve, expected to be massive protests in New York, in D.C., against Trump, Musk, all of the cuts. I think it's going to get even bigger now that they're taking 2 chainsaws now to the economy. So Ashley will be on the ground with John this Saturday covering that live. I think there's going to be a few thousand people out there in New York. But let's show you Shawn Fain, who has been for the tariffs, specifically in relation to the auto industry. Let's show you what he had to say about these
I'm joined
tariffs.
here by the bargaining committee from Volkswagen for the UAW. Look, we are ecstatic to see an administration finally address the unfair trade laws in this country. These laws have destroyed the American working class. They've destroyed communities in this country and virtually every state for decades. So, we're talking about what President Trump said was a 25% tariff on vehicles not produced in the United States. Also part of that was the ability for Americans to deduct the interest off their loans for buying products that are made in America. So obviously we want to dig further into the details to have a better understanding of exactly how far these tariffs go. And we look forward to continuing to be part of the conversation with the administration going forward. But, as I said, the committee of Volkswagen, it's no irony to me that this happened today while we're right here at Volkswagen in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Just yesterday, we were at the bargaining table with Volkswagen, and we told Volkswagen their move to eliminate a shift here was illegal and not only harmful, it violates law, but not only harmful to Chattanooga, but harmful to America. Their action represents everything that's wrong with the American auto industry in the past several decades. So Volkswagen, as we speak, they have excess capacity right here, right now. So while they're breaking the law and eliminating a shift of workers, while at the same time, Volkswagen is the greatest violator of sourcing outside of the United States and bringing product back in here. 75% of the product they make in Mexico, they ship into the United States. That is criminal. It's everything that's wrong with this, and that's what these tariffs are meant to address. So, Volkswagen has excess capacity. They could shift more product in here overnight and put people back to work and put more people to work. And it's no different looking at Stellantis, in Warren, Michigan. They laid off 2,000 workers there this past year. They're shifting Ram truck production to Mexico, which these workers made. They could make that change overnight and start producing those Ram trucks right back here in North America. So, for decades, especially since the inception of NAFTA, corporations have exploited the unfair trade laws.
I agree with the sentiment and the anger. The problem is, he's right about the history. And he's right. They could, if they wanted to. There's nothing holding any of these companies. I mean, these mega billion-dollar. I mean, I think they're making like 10, 11, 12 billion dollars profit a year. So they could very well come back to America if they wanted to. I don't know if we agree on the mechanism to force them. I don't think this is going to force them. I think personally, they're going to lobby Trump for exceptions and make deals. You already see what Trump has been doing with these law firms and making them bend to his will and, give all sorts of goodies, settle with the Trump administration, law firms that he thought targeted him. I think the first Trump administration carved out exceptions to the tariffs like candy. I think you're going to be having Trump acting like a king, asking his subjects to come bend the knee, and the ones that kiss his ass and kiss the ring enough will get some type of exceptions or workarounds. I don't think this is going to bring those plants back because these companies will wait it out. They will lay off workers. They will use temporary workers, which we're about to get into when Ashley joins us. And they'll just say, hey, we'll deal with it for 3-4 years. The next person, the next guy or gal is, if it is not him, because he's talking about unconstitutionally running for a third term, they'll just reverse it. I don't see if it was smaller and more targeted just to the auto industry, maybe not bring us back to the golden days, but maybe do bring a little bit more back. But I don't think this is going to do what Fain and the UAW think it's going to do.
Do you remember when Bernie ran? I think it was the first time when they were talking about Medicare for all, and in Las Vegas, the union, the hotel or culinary union or whatever,
2020, yeah.
Okay, they sat there and they were like, "No, we don't want to support that because we bargained for us to get a Cadillac healthcare plan. So no, we don't want Medicare for all." Right? This is the problem with these kinds of unions. I'm thinking we need class struggle unions. And I know goddamn well Sean Fain has access to people like Joe Burns. I know damn well he's talked to people like Sarah Nelson. So I know damn well that he understands that an injury to one is an injury to all. And by putting this the way that they're doing it, all the other people that are hurt by these things don't really matter in the grand scheme of it. All that matters is this narrow little world. And that is the problem right now, because we are in much deeper trouble than just their narrow little world. And by focusing on that, instead of thinking of the downstream impacts the way they're doing it, I think they're shooting unions in the foot, actually. I think that they need to be looking across industry, working together with other labor unions to create that class struggle version versus this kind of, let's get ourselves. It's so ticky-tack to me, the way that they're approaching, because literally, like I said before, the federal government, if it wants to make these things happen in the United States, it could literally tell Volkswagen, if you want to do business here, you must do X, Y, Z. And then they could deal with them otherwise. There's no reason.
Steve, that's communist. That's communist.
I know, right? What can I say, man? I'm a leftist, man. What can I say? But the reality is that the more that you listen to people, they're going to hear these things. They're not going to take more than 5 minutes. If it's bigger than the TikTok, they're already lost. And so what's going to end up happening is that these kinds of very, very, my face is so close to the mirror, I can't see anything kind of shit, they're going to completely miss it. And I'm very sad to see it, because at this point in time, if we don't do far more to bring people to an understanding that the federal government is the currency issuer that has the power, that it can do these things, we're going to keep the race to the bottom. You said it so well, Jordan. I want to give you props for understanding the local and the state-based race to the bottom. They'll sell out their tax base to bring industry in there. They'll rip apart schools. They'll deny schools funding, but they'll go ahead and make sure companies come there. It's what Texas does, for Christ's sake. Texas has been doing it. They've had hey, come on down, Texas. We got a place for you. Okay. The rich are doing great. The poor are doing poor. Right. And you look at this is the way it's going to be from here on out. This whole strategy is a complete race to the bottom. It is not the big win that some folks, they're bringing the jobs back. Sounds good. It ain't the good thing you think it is, the way they're doing it.
Right. And I also want to point out, Colin, this is the tweet, Sam Stein. Trump exempted a very specific industry. You want to take a guess which industry isn't going to have tariffs, Steve?
Oil and natural gas, huh?
In the fact sheet the White House has sent out touting support for the president's tariff policies, and includes a quote from the American Petroleum Institute. We welcome President Trump's decision to exclude oil and natural gas from the new tariffs. Pain for thee, not for me, the fossil fuckers say. Just so happened to be some of Trump's biggest donors. But Trump cares about the working class, right? Give me a fucking break. These are the motherfuckers that should have tariffs times 10 on them if you really want to inflict pain. But Trump is inflicting pain on his own base, because I guarantee you a large portion of those workers laid off at Stellantis, and what's to come, other places that are going to get laid off. We already have seen news reports of government workers who were laid off that happen to be Trump supporters. So he wants loyalty from his base to him. He doesn't exactly, exude it on the way back. The other thing is Mark Cuban, not exactly somebody I tend to take advice from, but again, clock's right, broken clock right twice a day. I think he gave good advice here. It's not a bad idea to go to the local Walmart or big box retailer and buy lots of consumables now. From toothpaste to soap, anything you could find storage space for, buy before they have to replenish inventory. Even if it's made in the USA, they will jack up the price and blame it on tariffs. That's another great point, Steve, because
100%.
The companies that actually are made here, look what all these companies did during COVID and inflation. The inflation crisis. It's called greedflation. They incorrectly and lied to you saying, oh, well, we have to because our costs have gone up. Nope. A lot of their costs weren't going up or had gone up modestly, but they saw other companies' costs go way up. So they said, hey, let's get in on the game here. And they surged their prices even though they weren't being affected. That's exactly what's going to happen here. including American companies that don't import much from anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, Isabella Weber put out a great tweet a little while ago. She's like, tariffs are cost shocks. Last time around, across the board, cost shocks, coordinated price hikes, and triggered sellers' inflation. See paper below. So if you don't follow Isabella Weber, go out there and follow Isabella Weber on Twitter, and or X, they call it, and you're going to find somebody that can tell you all about greedflation, or whatever you want to call it. But I wanted to just really seriously come back to this, though. As long as you're dependent on rich people to give you jobs, as long as you're dependent on rich corporations to come back in to do the thing, you're always going to need rich corporations and rich people to make us whole. This is why I'm telling you guys, instead of focusing on bringing the jobs back so that these mega corporations come back and hire you up to work for them, why are we not putting it on our federal government? It's supposed to represent us, right? I know it doesn't, but it's supposed to represent us. And by doing that, by putting us into, who is the government? It's supposed to be we the people, right? Supposed to be. It's not, but it's supposed to be. And if that's the case, why wouldn't you want to be dependent on we the people instead of those the rich people? Why would you continue to bend a knee to the rich folk? Why would you continue to be grateful that rich people are going to give you a little bit of crumb off their table, scrape the scraps into your little bowl so you can have a little bit of porridge or some bullshit like that? At some point in time, you got to stop worshiping rich people and start demanding your government make us whole. They're rich people. Capitalism will never try to make you whole. It will always try to reduce cost. It will always try to make you take less for your worth. You will always take less. And instead of celebrating these fucking bloodsuckers, start demanding your government. And when you realize your government will not do it, and you got to do what you got to do. And you know what I'm saying.
Steve, that got me so excited. I'm putting on my French beret.
Oh, yes. That storm the Bastille.
that a protester gave me, but I never wear because it makes my head look like a conehead. I want to play this other clip. Smash that like button, by the way. Almost 1,000 people watching, so we need you, folks. Smash that like button. Show some love. I know times are tough. Sign up as a paying member to Status Coup. We just hired a new reporter. She's coming on in a minute. We're going to be hiring a producer soon, too. We need to grow so we can afford all this, and we are also planning additional on-the-ground reporting, so we're not just bloviating out of our behinds. I want to show you another clip from billionaire Commerce Secretary of Fuck Grandma and Granny fame and their Social Security checks, Howard Lutnick. He was on another show and basically just said the plan is trust Donald. Trust Donald Trump.
But let's play that. You know, this takes long. Unraveling globalization takes a long time. This isn't just an overnight fix. And in the interim, prices will go up. You even hear from the president himself, there will be short-term pain. We're going to see in the next few days likely prices going up at the grocery store. What do you say to those Americans who put Donald Trump in office to lower prices, not raise them?
So energy prices down. Interest rates down, right, your mortgage costs down, right? These things are energy. The price at the gas pump lower, oil down 6-7%. Why aren't you talking about the fact that oil and the gas pump is going to come smashing down? No tax on tips, no tax on overtime,
right,
no tax on Social
Security. That's not even in effect yet.
These
no
are
tax on
all
tips. But I just want to drill down on
prices.
These
are all coming now.
Because as you well know, Secretary, a lot of Americans put Donald Trump in office because they were unhappy with prices at the grocery store.
So yeah, let's trust the guy who went bankrupt. I lost count. Let's trust the guy whose casinos were about to go belly up, but his daddy, who gave him $400 million, bailed him out. Let's trust that guy. Let's trust the guy that cheated on all three of his wives, and by the way, buried his ex-wife Ivana Trump. This is not The Onion. Buried his ex-wife Ivana Trump, I believe, on the 9th hole of the New Jersey golf course so that he could get a tax break from New Jersey. Let's trust that guy. I'm not making that up. Google it. He buried his ex-wife, which I assume his kids agreed to, at his golf course because in New Jersey, that's considered you get a tax cut if it's for burial or something like that. Fucking insane. Let's trust him. Let's trust the guy that so severely mismanaged the worst pandemic in once in a century pandemic that's basically why he lost to a senile man. COVID would have been a lot less severe if Trump would have taken it seriously from the beginning. Your thoughts before we change subjects?
I got no words, man. The guy's a fucking idiot. I mean, little people, when you only have a couple $100 in your pocket or in your bank account or whatever, and things go up, you don't have anywhere to go with that, right? You're going to put it on credit cards, etc. And when prices start going up, and then you have credit card payments too, it's just ridiculous. I mean, I just can't even. What do you say? And the worst part is, there's dumbasses out there that support that shit. They just disgust.
I don't want to be insensitive to the memory of Ivana. I think that was her name, but this is just too funny. Beth says her ashes didn't take a whole casket. The kids didn't like her either.
Oh my God.
Okay, I digress. More serious things. All right. So MAGA Steve, let me bring on Ashley first. Joining us now, Status Coup's new reporter, the great Ashley Bishop. How you doing, Ashley?
Hey, how are you guys?
Good. You've been hard at work. This is Steve, by the way, if you're meeting him for the first time.
We are. Yeah. Hi, nice to meet you.
We talked in email.
That's right.
We did. That's right.
Yeah.
Ashley's been hard at work reading the 200 emails I forwarded her because I'm getting a lot off my plate, thank God. And we'll have a video from you tomorrow. I hate to be a Debbie Downer to those in the audience who are rah, Cory Booker for your filibuster, but we're going to rain on your parade because Mr. Booker is not the champion and the fighter that the MSNBC liberal wine moms are cheering about right now. But on to today's topic. On to today's topic, Ashley. We were talking before. MAGA was surfacing around as proof that the tariffs are working. That General Motors, Colin, if you have the article from Reuters, General Motors exclusive. GM to increase truck production in Indiana following Trump's tariffs. So Trumpies were surfacing around on Twitter. This is proof that his tariffs are already bringing jobs back. But if you actually read the fine print, Ashley, maybe not the best quality jobs.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. So if you actually read the article, it says, the GM announced they're going to increase their truck production of their light duty trucks at their Fort Wayne plant in Indiana, and they're adding 225 to 250 jobs, which, like you said, that sounds great. The other bit, though, is that those will all be temporary jobs. So that is not going to be good for anyone who's looking to work for, more than like 3 to 9 months.
Correct. And in the 2023 UAW strike, which you covered as well, I did, and we were there on the ground, temporary workers was a huge sticking point because GM, Stellantis, Ford have been abusing that forever. I mean, before that, you could be a temporary. Actually, you know what, Colin? Let's play that clip. I want to show you. This broke my heart. This was a single mother I interviewed on the ground, a Stellantis worker who is a temporary worker for 5 years at Stellantis. We'll play some of it.
I'm joined by Alexis. You're a Stellantis worker, and you are one of the unlucky temp workers, and you've been here for about 3 years?
Almost 5 years, okay. Exactly 4.5.
Mm-hmm. So tell me, Stellantis, we know I guess the COO was on vacation in his Mexico mansion when he was supposed to be bargaining. Stellantis, the CEO makes almost $25 billion a year. Stellantis last year made about $18 billion in profits. And you and I were talking, I mean, you're barely making it. Can you tell us what you've been dealing with?
I survive off of 2 jobs. I work here during the summer 6 days a week because that's when they need us to cover up the absenteeism for the full-timers, their FMLA, their PIC days, and their vacations. Over the summer, like I said, I work 6 days a week, averaging about $1,000 a week, to just getting my hours cut down to 3 days because the full-timers, once they come back to work now, summer is over, kids are in school. So me as a SE worker, I get cut down to 3 days, which is Monday, Friday, Saturday, now averaging about $600 a week, and that's topped out pay as $19.28 an hour.
So you can't go above $19.28.
I cannot go above $19.28.
And if you're a temporary worker, what's the pathway? How long to becoming full-time?
We don't have a pathway. We're not guaranteed full-time. This is an unstable job if you're a temporary worker. We could wake up tomorrow morning and be told we're no longer needed and has to find a new job.
And you have a young child.
Yes, I have a 1.5-year-old daughter.
So tell me, I mean, you seem relatively young. When you applied here, did you think it was going to be significantly different?
Yes, when I applied here, I thought it would be different. When I applied here, I had to wake up that morning because the website was opening, and me and my family were afraid it was going to crash. So I got the job. I thought it was going to be what everybody hyped it up to be, but Stellantis is not how it used to be.
Tell me about if you're only pulling in about $600 a week with a 1.5-year-old. I assume that's not enough. Do you have to work other jobs?
It's definitely not enough. I have a second job. I waitress, normally open the close on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I have a lot of help and support from my family, which I'm very grateful for. Without them, I don't know what I would do.
And you're raising your child single mother?
Single mother.
So, to be clear, that's disgusting, obviously. I just want to be fair. That was before the new contract. But the new contract, GM, which we're talking about GM, Ashley, can you talk about temporary workers are still not full-time for a considerable amount of time?
Yeah, for sure. So in the new contract, all of the temporary workers who were current temporary workers when the contract went into effect, if you had worked there for 90 days, you would be converted to an in-progression worker, which basically means like you're on the path to actually getting full benefits, full wages, and all of that. That changes for newly hired temporary workers. So anyone who is hired after that point, it takes 9 months to actually become an in-progression worker and then be on the path to actually receiving full pay, full benefits, all that kind of stuff. The only other improvements that I can really find for temporary workers is eligibility for bereavement pay and jury duty pay, and eligibility for profit sharing plans. And that's really it. So, I mean, a lot of the stuff that the woman in the video was talking about have not been improved, especially if you're a newly hired temp worker. So they've kind of bought themselves some time to reset. So again, anyone who was a temp worker when this contract went into effect is going to have a different pathway than any of the newly hired people that they're looking to add to the Fort Wayne plant right now.
And this ain't your first rodeo. Would seem to me Trump wants some good headlines so he could say, look, we're bringing jobs back, but if it takes them 9 months to get full-time work, or excuse me, the pathway, are we being cynical to say, hey, maybe GM's just going to use these people up and on 8 months and 29 days, get rid of them?
I don't think so. It certainly seems like that is what's going to happen. I guess we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I think it's what you're suggesting. This is going to give Trump a temporary win. You know, he's doing something for workers. They're adding jobs, blah, 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 all that stuff. And then again, after 9 months, when nobody's looking anymore, nobody cares anymore, then they're all going to be laid off. I think that that's a very distinct possibility.
And Steve, I want to read a text message that I got. I was talking to a GM worker today. I was seeing if she could come on, but she was working. But I asked her, you know, what she thought of this. She said something that I didn't think of, and that's why it's good to have sources with activists and workers, etc. So I asked her what she thought about this story. She said, yeah, we make the transmissions here at my plant. She's in Ohio. Those of us in machining are already working 7 days a week, and some areas in assembly are 2 12-hour shifts, 6 and 7 days. When this happens, talking about this expansion, will be 24/7. On one hand, it's great. On the other, if GM does not hire enough people, they never do, it will increase the already high rate of FMLA usage, family medical leave. People's bodies are breaking down with little to no work-life balance. Ergonomically, it's horrible. So it kind of goes to you, headline, tariffs are working, we're bringing jobs back. but these people are already working 6 to 7 days. Their bodies are breaking down, 12-hour shifts, and these are temporary workers. Steve.
Yeah, this is the game plan. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket science. You don't need an MBA to know that businesses all have one responsibility and one responsibility only. It isn't to make the environment good. It isn't to make sure workers are fulfilling their life dreams. It is literally to maximize shareholder value only, period. End of story. And if workers get in the way of shareholder value, workers will be moved out of the way, period, full stop. And you'll be worked to the bone if that's what enhances shareholder value. Shareholder value, that's it. And I don't know why that doesn't stay in people's minds. Like, I don't know why that kind of, oh, wow, this is great. They're doing these great things for us. They love us. But I'm telling you, whatever you deify, if you deify big business, if you deify the rich, and you make us dependent on them, when we don't have to be, by the way, when you make us dependent on these folks, you end up getting this kind of stuff. And you're always left watching people going, why? Why did they do this? And it's like, shareholder value, baby. They don't give a rat's ass about you. It's just, I mean, seriously, any basic, I mean, you could go out there and Google what is the number one imperative for a business, and it's going to say maximize shareholder value. So just know that your lives, their lives, workers' lives, doesn't matter. It's just another sob story. You made poor decisions. Oh, well, go get a better job. Go find a better job if you don't like the one you got here. You know, you hear these things, and there aren't better jobs. That's the problem. The days where you could work your way up from the mailroom to the house are long gone. They don't exist anymore. Okay, if you want to make America great again, I mean, let's start there, right? But the reality is that the businesses that they're trying to bring back are businesses that most people really don't want to do. And you're kicking out the immigrant workers that were willing to do that work, that were eager to do that work. And literally, instead of just paying them a living wage and stuff like that, you're going to force people into these jobs. It's just going to be a cacophony of ignorance and just really bad outcomes. I mean, I remember the great financial crisis. I remember it like it was yesterday because I was one of the people that got swept up in the layoffs at Verizon. Ma Bell laid off 10,000 of us in 1 week. And I was dumb enough because I just got my second master's degree. I was like, I'll take on the world. Give it to me. And I put my name on a RIF list, not realizing that it would take 18 months to find a job. 18 months with all the, I mean, I had credentials out the wazoo, work history you could choke a dog with. And I still couldn't find work. And the stories, I remember them like they were yesterday, of people driving from New York to West Virginia to work a second shift at Walmart because they didn't have other jobs. Okay. I was willing to get an apartment somewhere just so I could work somewhere and then come back home to my family on the weekends, because that's how bad it was. That's what we're looking at. We're looking at something like that happening all over again. I'm telling you, go back to Bill Clinton's balanced budget and the surplus. This is what Trump is trying to do by cutting spending and laying people off. Now you're going to have a shark pit. You're going to have a pool of people desperate for work, all fighting, and all of them, well, not all of them, but probably many of them with college degrees and other good work experience competing with one another in a race to the bottom to see who will take less. It's horrible. It's going to have very, very negative outcomes. It isn't like people getting huge paychecks. It's people literally taking the bottom of the barrel just to get a job.
And Ashley, dare I say, I think the Democratic Party's strategy here is to essentially listen to James Carville, who hasn't been right since 1992, and just sit back and let them kill themselves. However, I don't know, maybe I'm naive. Wouldn't this be a good opportunity for an actual opposition party to propose an alternative? An alternative vision to bring back manufacturing? Your thoughts?
No, for sure. And there was just so much good stuff within what you said, Steve. I agree with all of that. And yeah, if the Democrats had any sense, they would learn from everything that has happened, and they won't. Because the mantra of that party is just never learn anything, keep continuing to do the things that don't work. I don't see how they can expect to win if they don't offer something material. If, like you said, they don't offer some kind of counter to what, you know, Trump and his administration is offering to people, which is clearly not working. And is, yeah, sure, they're going to bring back, you know, 250 temporary jobs for people. That doesn't help many people. And the people who do get those jobs, again, there's no security, which is obvious because it's a temporary job. So I don't know. I don't really know what the Democrats think that they're doing. I think what Booker did, you know, on Monday and Tuesday is, I mean, I'm going to give him credit. It was 25 hours and 5 minutes of talking with no break. I appreciate that. I think he should get some credit for it. But what is going to actually come from that? He wasn't actually protesting any specific legislation either. So they're not really even doing anything with that. It's just a grand gesture. And again, the bar is so low at this point that yes, like I'm happy to see them doing that. I would like to see more of it, but I don't think anything's actually going to come from it. And I don't think that they have any kind of game plan. I think that they will continue to listen to their consultants, listen to, you know, their donor base, and we will just end up with more MAGA policies and we'll all be fucked.
Can I ask her a question? So, from my vantage point, I'm a guy that likes to study things.
Steve, go easy. She just started. Go easy on her.
No, I'm going to go totally easy on her.
I'm ready.
But when I think about this, okay, I say to myself that both parties serve one thing, and that's capital. And I just sat there and talked about the underlying number one priority of capital is maximizing shareholder value. So both corporate entities, Republicans and Democrats, and yes, they are corporations. They are not, you know, the people. They are corporations with corporate interests and corporate bylaws and corporate rules and the way they do things. They don't even have to, you know, observe the results of a primary, for example. They proved that in court down in Florida. So we know we don't really have a democracy. Princeton study proved that as well. So if you look at the outcomes and you say to yourself, they will never learn. Well, they won't learn because they're not supposed to learn. They're serving their masters. They just do it differently. They act like they're serving the people while they serve their masters, while the Republicans act like they're serving something while they're serving their masters, because in reality, they're a bunch of puppets up there, a bunch of theatrical performers up there, led to make us manufacture consent for what the oligarchy says. And you'll watch MAGA will jump to the beat of whatever they say. And just like you'll watch the blue MAGA do the exact same thing. I'm curious when I see this, okay, I have no evidence going back to Jimmy Carter that the Democrats really have a real working class interest whatsoever. And you saw Bill Clinton literally go out of his way to divorce himself with a third way, you know, when he was elected after HW. So our whole existence, I mean, most people here, I mean, I'm an old fart, you know, I'm 56 now. I almost said 55, but I turned 56. But, you know, most people weren't around for that, or they were too young to really understand it. But I'm watching an evidence-free get out of jail free card for the Democrats, where they just presume to be the good guys because they say nice things, or they do performative, they wear kente cloths, or they, you know, whatever, but they do nothing. It's performative, just like Trump is being a performative asshole for the MAGAs. They're like, yeah, you own the shit libs. That means everything to me. That's all I need to do is see you bust them woke people up. Democrats say, yo, Trump is such a bad guy, blah, blah, we're going to march and stuff, but we're not going to have any demands. I'm curious, what do you see as the evidence? And I'm looking, I'm open to it. What do you see as the evidence that they even mean to do the right thing?
I don't. So one of the things that I talked about in the video that I recorded earlier is basically an agreement that their constituency is their donor base. And they're serving their constituency. So when I say they'll never learn anything, it's more they don't understand how to win elections. They don't understand how to learn enough to keep themselves in power. But yeah, I'm in total agreement with all of that. I do not think that they're actually serving working people. Yeah.
I'm the revolutionary here. I'm the out of line guy.
That would actually presume that the number one priority for the Democratic parties is to win elections. I think they prefer to win elections. I think that's on the list, but not if they have to actually change towards a worker-oriented party. Because in 2016, they lost to the Orange Man, and they blamed Russia and moved right. In 2020, they barely beat the Orange Man, and they treated it like a massive mandate. Biden, in the beginning, did some decent things. His polling was the highest it ever was after that COVID bill. It didn't go far enough that I wanted, but he had a high approval rating. And the reaction to that, success, high approval rating, you could actually do more, was to then succumb to Joe Manchin, Kirsten Sinema, which in my view were just the rotating villains. I don't think the Democratic Party wanted to do more than that. So it seems to me, yeah, it is. They don't have enough sense, but I think they also, like in this moment, the obvious winning political strategy is what Bernie has been doing, whether you agree or completely with Bernie on all things. The obvious political strategy is say, hey, he's tanking the global economy. Here's our plan to bring jobs back. And it starts with massive government investment. I don't think they're going to do that, Ashley, because their donors won't allow it.
Yeah, I, again, agree with all of that. I think that they are largely doing the thing that they've set out to do, which is, as we've all commented on, protecting their donor base and protecting themselves, protecting their wealth, protecting their money. We are not part of that. Working people don't factor into that plan at all. And like you said, they want to win elections. They want to remain in power because they want to remain in control of the whole profiteering system, right? They want to do it the way that they want to do it. They don't want to do it the way that Republicans are doing it right now. And the Republicans say the things out loud that they don't want actually said. So it doesn't help them. And the Republicans, they draw attention to all of the behind the scenes stuff that they don't want people talking about, because once you start looking at it on one side, you're also going to start getting curious about well, if Republicans are doing this, maybe Democrats are also doing something similar. So it doesn't benefit them in any way. And they have their socially progressive ideas and all that stuff, which Democrats obviously, very, very obviously in this moment don't agree with. So they'd like to, keep promoting those things and throwing us that tiny little crumb, that sliver of hope that maybe something good is coming down the pike. But it's not, because the only thing that they actually care about is profits and money and wealth.
Real quick, Cory Booker, I'm going to take away the credit for just a second. When Bernie Sanders put that pharmaceutical bill out there,
no, stood up for 25 hours. You could give him a little credit.
I'll give him a chair, right? I'll give him a chair to sit in for a minute, but maybe even a bottle of water, right? But the water from Flint, not good water, right? But
I think that's fair.
we had a group of people that went into Cory Booker's office right around that time and asked him, how come you have all this freaking money from pharmaceutical companies? How come you're using this to tank it? And they got him on hidden camera. Literally, we broke this thing. Diane Moxley and a few others were in his office and got him on record. He goes, what do you want me to do? You want me to give the money back? What do we have to do? Kind of thing. This guy is a piece of trash from the word go. He was the one that shot down the little bit of, and it wasn't even a good bill. Bernie's idea wasn't even a great bill, but it was better than nothing at that point in time to bring pharmaceuticals in cheaply from Canada. And what did he do? He shot it down. So this rotating villain that Jordan's, if you watch over time, you can see it's always been somebody. There's a parliamentarian. Have you seen a parliamentarian stop Donald Trump? Just curious. No, I don't think so. Right. So
I haven't even seen the Constitution stop him.
Exactly. I mean, this is the point, man. It's all, I have a hard time to see any of it beyond performative, right? They got to put on a show. So you say, oh, that's the one fighting for us. Okay. Yeah. They wore a kind of cloth. That's it. They're the one doing it. I can't even give them credit anymore. I'm sorry. I am definitely much more cynical than probably everybody else.
She'll get there. Don't worry. Day two. Well, I also want to point out, and I think Ashley and I are in agreement, it would be much more beneficial to Status Coup business-wise, right? Clicks, views, if we just ride this Resistance 2.0 train. If we don't do any videos criticizing Democrats, if the only thing we do is focused on Trump, the massive cuts, Chainsaw Musk, billionaire Lutnick, now the tariffs, and just Trump. And we're doing quite a lot of Trump because you can't ignore it. I mean, what he's doing is insane. But I also don't think, and I see some lefty channels are not doing as much coverage of the Democratic Party, and I think that's a mistake. because, you know, the analogy would be if the house is on fire, you got Jordan. If the house is on fire, focus on the fire. We'll focus on the Democrats later. No. Why is the house on fire? Because the fire department didn't show up. The Democratic Party, bad analogy, because I wouldn't want them saving me or my children from a fire. The Democratic Party, so they claim, is the fire department. They say they're the party of the working people. So how do you keep getting the fires? The 2008 financial crash, the Iraq war, COVID, and the economic collapse. I mean, we could go down the list. So you cannot ignore the other part of the puzzle, even though the fire is horrible, even though what Trump is doing is making us all sick, and we're covering it. We've covered the protests. Ashley's going to be out there on Saturday covering a massive protest, but you can't ignore the Democratic part, because the answer is not back to normal 2.0, which is how Biden won. Was, I don't care if it's a dead person. Let's get rid of Trump. No, if we just put Pete Buttigieg back in there, if we put Gavin Newsom in there, Kamala, I mean, name your corporatists, and we get back to, you know, tax credits for housing and this and that, and the income inequality continues to explode, Americans have selective amnesia. If you said in 2020, after Trump lost, to Americans, oh, he's going to be elected in 4 years, I bet you 70% would say absolutely not, never again, particularly after January 6th. But Americans have short-term amnesia, or long-term, excuse me. So bottom line, if the Democrats get in and don't do jack shit, that's going to create the conditions again for a less bombastic fascist. Vance. Well, Cotton's pretty fascist, but you get my point. So I think we need to, I mean, right now I would put it 60-40. I think we need to cover Trump a little more, but we're not letting Democrats off the hook. I don't see any other than Bernie and AOC. And even what Bernie and AOC are doing, they have proposals, but it's not activating people to do something other than come to the rallies. We need to activate people to organize. I think it would be terrific if you got thousands of people protesting this weekend in DC and New York. How about we take economic actions with that? The Tesla protests have been working. Tesla's stocks are tanking. Their sales are tanking. So that's my long-winded rant. Ashley, your last thoughts on what I just said.
Yeah, I would agree with all of that. I think, as you said, what's missing from these rallies with Bernie and AOC, everything that he said is great. And now whether you I certainly don't think that Bernie or AOC are perfect, whatever. There are plenty of things to complain about with Bernie, certainly with AOC. But I think that I'm glad for the direction that's going in. And I think that what's mostly missing are calls to organize, calls to move this momentum more closer to like grassroots movements or back into grassroots movements that can actually affect change. Because as we've all commented on, I don't think that Democrats are shepherds of any kind of change for any of us. I think that we're well beyond that at this point, and we need either a third party, that's a contentious topic, but like third party, something else that can help improve the livelihoods of working people. And I think that at the very least, what we have right now are grassroots movements that can apply pressure to parties that will not change unless you like really force them to, essentially. So,
absolutely. Yeah. Steve, I know you got to go feed the kids. Tell the people where they can find you. Everybody at your patriotic duty. We have at this point about 1,000 people watching. Go subscribe. It's in the description to Real Progress in Action, Real Progressives, which is Steve's channels. He, like Status Coup, covers a lot of good stuff, the non-sexy stories that the corporate media and most independent media ignore. Tell the masses where they can find you.
Yeah, please listen to our podcast, Macro and Cheese. It comes out every Saturday morning at 8 a.m., but you can see it or listen to it anytime. It's not, you don't even have to look at my ugly mug. It's just an audio. And we release it every week. And on Tuesday nights, we celebrate Macro and Cheese by having Macro and Chill together in a webinar fashion where we can teach each other and learn. For those of you who don't understand modern monetary theory, for those of you who don't understand the relationship with working class issues, we combine the two and we discuss them at length. this is the way you learn. So please come join us. We definitely love to have you.
And there is a vegan. There is a vegan option of macaroni and mac and cheese, macro and cheese, if you are lactose intolerant. All right. Thank you, Steve.
Yep. Take care, y'all. Nice to see you, Ashley.
Bye. Nice to see you.
Ashley, stick around as we shoot the shit a little more. So, audience, Ashley and I have been talking. Listen, it's her second day here, so she is getting her bearings, going through a lot of the stories we've covered. She's going to be on the ground this weekend. We're also talking about, hey, honestly, this is a good opportunity to go on the ground between the Doge cuts, between the services that are being cut. So it's not just the government workers that are being fired and laid off. It's all the services. So when you have, I mean, Steve and I have gone through it, Ashley, you have disability offices that their funding is being cut, youth programs where their funding is being cut. So we were thinking of you going on the ground to cover those things. Obviously, we need to reach out and do call outs to get people to reach out to us. But that's one thing we're thinking about sending you out. And now this, you're going to see a lot of layoffs, unfortunately. So, what are your thoughts on going on the ground? And, I don't see anyone else that's potentially going to do that, to talk to the actual people being affected.
Yeah, I think that's great. Please send me. I would love to go talk with people. I would love to go see the actual impacts of all of these cuts, all of these things that are happening. I don't think that my experience with documentaries and being on the ground and seeing something firsthand, that is a wholly different experience than reading about something or being told that a thing is happening. It's so much better to see with your own eyes what's actually going on. And like you said, I don't really see a whole lot of outlets actually going and finding out how these localities are faring. They're just kind of treating these cuts as, here it's part of our larger Trump coverage. And here's how Trump is destroying the country. But you need to actually go talk to those people whose lives are being destroyed.
Absolutely.
So
I also want to read another email. This is the advantage of having a whole lot of activists constantly reaching out to you, which, as I told Ashley in the interview, you're going to get a lot of people calling you. I got this email on Trump's tariffs while we were live. So this is another example of layoffs or also projects not happening because of these tariffs. Hi, this is from Lois. Hi, Jordan. Well, Orange Man did it again. A plastics recycling company, which was set to begin building a $300 million plastics plant in Erie, Pennsylvania, just informed city officials they are pulling the plug because of the tariffs as the economic uncertainties. Those jobs were supposed to be good paying, family sustaining jobs. Erie used to be a booming industrial city in the 1960s with foundries, GE headquarters, all these other MFG plants. Now it's a Rust Belt city trying to claw its way back with small businesses, etc. Whatever people could do to make money. We lost some 40,000 people, so this was painful. So that's another part of the story. There might have been projects in the works that now that these companies, I mean, not all companies, obviously I call it the United Corporations of America. So not all companies have greedy vulture vampires running it. There's a lot of smaller plants, small businesses that don't have like $1 billion, profit margin, who can't absorb a 25% tariff or this and that, or they don't want to pass it off to their customers. So I think that's another thing. While you're on the ground, you could be telling people about projects that have been paused or canceled altogether.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't think that it's a coincidence that one of the, it sounds like a very large project that has been now canceled, that, one of the first ones that we're hearing about has to do with recycling or some kind of environmental endeavor, some kind of climate endeavor. Those are going to obviously be the first things that are cut. So there's, a story within that story too, everything that we're going to lose as far as climate action goes, as far as caring for the environment goes, and also cutting jobs for working people.
I don't know if you caught before you came on, Steve and I were talking, was it surprising to you that one of the only industries exempt were the fossil fuckers are not absorbing tariffs?
That is not surprising. That is not surprising. That seems par for the course, right?
It's unbelievable. Because as we were talking, you could have massive, forget the tariffs. You want to bring jobs back to America, and you've covered this extensively. We could have massive government investment in renewables, solar, wind. You've covered climate quite a lot. That's a huge way to bring back jobs. You could also transition. No, it can't happen tomorrow, but you could transition a lot of these workers in coal mines and refineries to clean energy.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that is, what the climate labor movement that's, kind of, at least up until right now, has been growing, has been trying to do. We're trying to move workers who are working in these exploitative industries and extractive industries over to clean jobs that will actually, enhance the future and at least protect us from further climate degradation. So yeah, I think it's going to be a shame, all of the jobs that we end up not seeing.
Absolutely. And by the way, public service announcement to the community. We have passed 434,000 subscribers. So we are marching, folks. We are marching to 500,000. One of the big reasons we could hire Ashley was we grew to over 200,000 subscribers in the last 6 months, thanks to you. Many of you are new subscribers, which with that growth came additional revenue from YouTube, paid members, but we need to keep growing. We want to get to 500,000 subscribers, preferably this year. So we're now about, I can't do math, 60,000 something away. And we definitely need to grow our paid membership so we could keep Ashley. We want to hire a producer. I'm talking to Ron Placone about possibly having a weekly comedy show so we could kind of give some folks some relief because it can't be all doom and gloom. So please, if you're not yet a paying member, statuscoup.com/join. You could join us for as low as a burnt cup of Starbucks coffee, even though I love my union friends there. You could join us for as low as a burnt cup of Starbucks coffee, $5 a month. statuscoup.com/join. We got $5 a month, $10 a month, $20 a month, and $179 annually. Jordan doesn't need trolls anymore. Growing, baby. I welcome the trolls. If we have more trolls, that means we're growing. So thank you to the trolls. All right, let's read some super chats before we go. Kimmy, $4.99. Thank you, Jordan and Steve. You guys really explain it so well. MMT is making more sense to me. Love the Status Coup community. Thank you. Nadia, €5. Senile puppets are irrelevant, neoconservative, neoliberal, dominionist, Christian reconstructionist, integralist, neo-Confederate, neo-Francoist rule now. I think I understood about 30% of that, but I like the sentiment and appreciate the $5. Ida became a Status Coup YouTube member. Thank you, Ida. Very much appreciate it. Welcome. Robert, $5. This is to Steve Grumbine. Explain why a member of Real Progressives by the name of Rocco Milian is supporting President Trump on almost every issue. Well, Steve has left the building, and I can't tell you why Rocco is supporting Mr. Trump. But Rocco, bad on you. I'll send that to Steve. Maybe he knows why. Who knows? Reminder, unless something breaks before then, Saturday is going to be a big protest. I think all over the country. They're billing it as a massive kind of protest against Trump, Musk, the cuts, I'm sure the tariffs now. So definitely be prepared for that. I think it's going to start at 1 o'clock Eastern. Ashley will be on the ground with John. It's her first time on the ground for us. So, give her a little benefit of the doubt if she's kind of working her way around and figuring things out. I've been doing this a long time, but not everyone has done this for a while. So you excited?
I'm very excited.
Yes.
I'm very excited. I'm ready to just hit the ground running and get more coverage of protests and like you said, kind of get my bearings, get ready to go out there and do more of this.
Absolutely. And like we said, we'll have a video from Ashley tomorrow. You went through, because, sometimes when people kind of co-opt a moment, So I think Cory Booker credit, he stood for 25 hours and didn't pee and yada, yada, yada. But we want to make sure everyone knows his actual record. So you know who is actually a fighter and who's just kind of faking being a fighter. So we'll have a video from you on that. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you, Ashley. Please subscribe if you're new here, and we will see you back here tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye-bye.